If you're American and you have an international trip coming up, I know you're probably panicking right now if you've been seeing the viral videos of people saying that they went on vacation, they traveled, got to their destination, and then upon arrival, they found out that their passports were canceled, and it was not canceled by them. They were told that their passport was canceled because it was reported lost or stolen.
People are finding out their passports were marked as lost or stolen while traveling abroad. So these people are traveling abroad from the United States to a different country, and while they're at the airport still and trying to get through so they can be in the country, they're actually told that their passport was marked as lost or stolen. So then they're turned around and deported back to the United States. And I don't know if that's the country that's not the United States basically being like, we don't really want Americans here right now, and so they're saying that, or if it's actually that these passports are marked as lost and stolen, and so within the system it's like, no, like, you can't come through here because your information isn't correct. And if that's actually the United States that's doing that, some force that's in the United States that would actually be, marking people's passports as lost or stolen. I don't know which one it is, but either way, it just seems like a tactic that's being used to keep Americans in the United States and basically not be able to leave.
I was deported from Thailand, and it's because the American system is failing you in a way that you don't even know about. So on December 28th, me and my girlfriend fly from Miami, Florida to Doha, Qatar to Bangkok, Thailand. And upon arrival, I go into immigration and I'm told that my passport is flagged as lost or stolen by Interpol. So in case you don't know, the only way that it can be marked as lost is if you yourself mark it as lost. You need your social security number, your birth certificate, you need all of your personal information to mark it as lost. I did not do that. So here I am, about as far away from the United States as I could possibly be, with an invalidated passport flagged by Interpol, International Police, to which I did not know about. I'm then told that I am not allowed to enter the country, and I'm detained until I am back on United States soil. So I'm getting deported with an invalidated passport that I used to book 6 international flights, and I got on 2 of those international flights with an invalid passport. And I know for sure that it wasn't a mistake, it's actually invalid, because when we got back to the States, Customs told me that it was lost, and it was marked lost 1 month after I got the passport. So this means I didn't even have the passport in the mail yet, and it was marked as lost. But I got it, and then 6 months later, I used that invalidated passport to book 6 international flights, and I got on 2 of them. So they had no more information for me, so I contacted the Department of the State, like the department of the government that's responsible for this. And they said they have no idea what I'm talking about. They've never heard of this situation before, and they tell me to go to another department. So I called the National Passport Information Center, and in their system, it's not marked as lost. There's no problem with my passport from the National Passport Information Center. They told me that different departments handle the application of your passport, and there's a completely different department that handles whether or not it's lost or stolen. So hours on the phone later, with the only 2 departments of government that are responsible for this, I have no information as to what happened, except I'm told to send a physical letter through snail mail to a random government P.O. box, and maybe they'll know what's happening with me. I spoke to the airlines. I spoke to an immigration lawyer, and what I've realized is that getting on a flight obviously does not do a full check of your passport, meaning that the only way I could have possibly known that my falsely flagged passport was flagged was to go through international immigration services in a different country. And they let me get on 24 hours of flights to be as far away from home as I possibly could be to find this out. If you're watching this, I sincerely hope you understand just how freaking dangerous that can actually be. To be totally clear, this was one of the most traumatizing things to happen in my and my girlfriend's lives. We are financially damaged. We are emotionally scarred. It was a horrible experience. However, we're back home. We're safe. But my concern is somebody a lot more vulnerable could go somewhere a lot scarier by themselves and you would be stuck in a situation that you cannot come back from.
Everything was normal. I was able to leave JFK with not a problem in the world. I land in Rome. They tell me that there's an Interpol alert on my passport. They say that it was reported lost or stolen. Now, I'm a frequent traveler. I showed them other proof of my identity. I had my passport card. I had my license. I showed them literally everything I had. My birth certificate, like, I keep that on me. So I end up being able to go through customs, but I need to go to the embassy to get a new passport. So I am grateful that I'm able to go to the embassy to get this passport. As promised, I go to the embassy first thing Monday morning to deal with the situation, and they're able to tell me that in their system, somebody reported my passport as lost or stolen on an MTA bus back in November. Now, that person was not me. I made it very clear to the person, I don't take the MTA bus. However, I'm also a frequent traveler. Why would I have reported my passport as missing and then decided to go on a trip a month later? It was not adding up. And so she believed my story. I ended up having to swear this entire thing under oath because that is something you do at the embassy. And I was charged $165 and sent on my way with my emergency passport. Although the embassy was great, it was not really an opportunity that I could just prompt them with a whole bunch of questions. I asked them, they said they didn't know. They said that they didn't have access to certain information, but on their system they could see that it was reported online in November by I'm assuming somebody else, because it was not me. I asked if there was a way that the system cross-references information. The woman did not know. And ultimately I was left unsure if this was just an accident or if this was somebody trying to steal my identity. And so, ironically, on my way home, I have my emergency passport, and guess what? I get stopped by the JFK police there. And so I have to explain to them what happened. They look it up in the system. They can confirm that that's what the embassy had documented, and I'm good to go on my way. My first full day back is Friday. I start my day off going through all of the paperwork for what I have to do, because now I need to fill out paperwork for a new passport. I have to pay $60 to expedite it. I have to pay $30 for a passport card, and now I have to pay $12 to ship that all out. So I go ahead and get that done, and then I start unraveling the mystery of who could have possibly reported this and why. So I call the passport agency and I'm like, hey, this was reported by somebody, not me. So what can we do about this? Who reported it? And they essentially tell me that once the passport leaves their hands, that it's out of their hands, that they are not responsible for that and they don't have the information that I'm looking for. So at this point, who has the information that I'm looking for?
This is pretty big news in the travel world this week, so let me fill you in and give you my take. There have been 5 TikTok videos I've seen of people coming forward saying that they traveled outside of the United States and were stopped by Interpol, the international police, because their passports had been marked as stolen and therefore were invalid. They had to either return home or go to the embassy and get an emergency passport that day. But every single one of these people is saying, I have my passport, I've used it, I didn't mark it stolen. A guy who went to Thailand and had this happen to him said that he called the Department of State, called Homeland Security, the U.S. Passport Office. No one had any information, but from a TikTok comment, he was able to find out that his local passport office had been the one to mark it as stolen. And we don't know why yet. It's like happening this week. I'm seeing all these stories come out. I've seen a few reports say that it's clerical error. My take, my belief is that it is AI. I think that more companies and even the US federal agencies, which is insane, are using AI to do some of these things. And I think it's AI marking people's passports as invalid or stolen. And if you're wondering if you can check if your passport's valid before one of your upcoming trips, unfortunately, you cannot.
Family, this situation is very serious. And what makes it even more disturbing is how quietly it's unfolding. Across the United States and abroad, American citizens are discovering that their passports are suddenly no longer valid, not suspended for fraud, not revoked due to crime, but cancelled for or even flagged because of internal government system errors that have not yet been identified or even corrected. And so let me be very clear here, family. This is not about mismatched documents, name changes, or even missing paperwork. These are citizens whose records are correct. The problem is happening inside the immigration and even federal database system themselves. And so these systems determine who is recognized as a citizen, who is cleared to travel, and who is really not. And so when these systems malfunction, glitch, or even misclassify records, the consequences are immediate and severe. And so a passport that once worked suddenly triggers alarms. Airlines deny boarding, border officials in other countries treat these individuals as undocumented or even stateless. And imagine the shock. You leave the US as a citizen only to be told abroad that your passport is invalid and your country will not recognize you in real time. And so some Americans have reported being detained overseas. Others have been placed in removal proceedings in countries they are not citizens of, not because they broke laws, but because the US system failed to properly resolve or even acknowledge an internal error. And so, while the government investigates itself, real people are stranded, others are jailed, or even sent under humiliating or even traumatic conditions. And so, what's even more unsettling is the lack of transparency, family. There is often no clear explanation given to the affected individual, no immediate fix, no emergency override. The system simply says flagged, and suddenly your citizenship, something you thought was unquestionable, becomes conditional on a database correction that may take some time to be resolved. And this exposes a terrifying reality, family. And so in today's world, citizenship is not only legal, it's digital. And when the system fails, your rights don't disappear loudly, they disappear silently behind screens and codes you can't see or even challenge in the moment. And so, family, this should concern every American, because if a system error can invalidate a passport today, it can question identity tomorrow. It raises profound questions about accountability, due process, and how much power unelected systems now hold over people's lives. And so this isn't about fear-mongering, family. It's awareness. The government has not publicly explained the full scope of these errors, how many people are affected, or when the issue will be fully resolved. Until that happens, citizens remain vulnerable, not because they are undocumented, but because the system documenting them is flawed. And so as we watch this unfold, remember this, family. The issue isn't the citizen, the issue is the system. And until it's fixed, the consequences are very real, very human, and very dangerous.